let's turn to like kind of what you do, even though you are, as we discussed, you're a feral free agent, but then also you run a software company, Complice, whose app helps people stay in touch with their big picture goals on a day-to-day basis and act strategically and improvisationally. So huge. Love that. And then I think the real kicker for people to kind of understand this is, quote, instead of productivity, we focus on intentionality, choosing and doing over organizing, aliveness instead of exhaustiveness, goals as fundamental rather than tasks, proactive rather than reactive. So like, I guess we don't have to hash out exactly, because I'll put in the website in the show notes, and people can do that. But what have you kind of learned the most from this venture? And then also like, there's been iterations of this, so I'm assuming that's changed over time and through that. So like, what have you learned the most of starting this, doing this? And then I'm assuming a lot of people coming in with a lot of issues of this to-do list, that to-do list, productivity, and then now you've kind of switched it into something that's much more integrated and, like, as you said, intentional.
The shift from productive to intentional, or productivity to intentionality, is, it's funny because like when I set out to build Complice, like it didn't feel particularly related to all of this culture stuff that I was doing, this like, meta
Mm.
protocol stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the term trust dancing at the time, but I was already involved in trying to figure out this sort of culture puzzle. And Complice did not seem related to that, but it turns out that everything's related to everything, and it also turns out that Complice in particular is actually very related to this, because it's about the nature of motivation, which is, we were just talking about, like, motivation to go to the party, motivation to do the work. How do you resolve that tension? And if in fact just wanting something means that you're going to be doing it, like, what is the role of something like a to-do list app in the first place? And one answer is something like, well, it keeps track of what you want in some ways. And Complice is very different from most other sort of to-do list apps, in this sense, in which most of them are keeping track over days, weeks, months, years of all the little to-dos.
Mm-hmm.
Complice is mostly keeping track of the big picture goals, like where are you headed? And so then on a given day, you're sort of improvisationally figuring out, well, how am I going to resolve some tension between, I want to work on this goal, I want to work on that goal. Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do today in the context of whatever today holds? It's like, oh, today I've got a podcast interview. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Today I've got I want to work on this piece of writing. Okay, I'm going to do that. And so yeah, so over the years, I've gotten a sense of like, as I've deepened my own sense of like allowing, like
Mm-hmm.
learning about perceptual control theory was actually was cool for Complice, as well as for all of this culture stuff, because it talks about how the brain works, how motivation works, talks about internal conflict, and it got me way more vividly clear on sort of what a goal even is.
Mm.
There's a
Okay.
sense in which what a goal is very simple and is happening all the time at like this, on this huge fractal array of different scales in
Yeah.
your body mind. Again, the example of drinking a glass of water, it's like you notice you're a little bit thirsty. Cheers. And you notice you're a little bit thirsty, and a goal, very simple kind of goal, arises in your being that says resolve thirst.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you notice you want to pause, right? The behavior could appear for multiple reasons.
Yep. Yep.
But it's the same behavior. So this is sort of the fractal thing of intentionality. You notice you want to pause, or you notice you want to make your mouth, wet again rather than dry. And that intention flows down into your motor stuff, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't even have to think about it.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
I'm like holding this glass up right now, and I'm not thinking about how many muscles I have to like all the muscles I
Right.
have to actuate to hold it up. And
Sure.
I'm using a slightly different amount of weight than I'm using now. I'm now holding the glass up with a slightly different amount of weight. And I can't even consciously tell the difference, and I don't have to, because my muscles aren't thinking, oh yeah, put in X newtons of force to this joint, and my muscles are simply solving in first person a differential equation that results in the glass not moving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
I'm doing is saying the glass is going to not move. I'm actually standing on a treadmill right now. I'm on a treadmill desk, and fascinatingly, if I turn on the treadmill, I can still keep the glass approximately motionless. I mean, it gets a bit more
Yeah,
wobbly
yeah,
and
for
stuff,
sure, for
but
sure.
I can just sort of, my legs are now participating in keeping the glass exactly where it is,
Hmm.
right? Or like, I can, move around like anyway. That's sort of just me rambling about PCT, maybe a little longer than
But higher
intended.
brain
But
functions and ordering, you get
right.
into
So
the
so
deeper
so the point
layers
being,
for
like,
sure.
your the higher order of your brain is maintaining some sense of good partnerness. Like, I want to be a good partner or
Yep.
a good conversationalist, or
Yep.
and then you have whatever sense you have of what that means, and then you have whatever behaviors underneath play into that.
Hmm.
But you might notice some conflict where some part of you is like, I want to be assertive, and another part of you is like, I want to be uh gentle, or like, I want to be kind or friendly or something.
Yep.
And maybe your concept of assertive sometimes conflicts with your concept of gentle, and so in one moment you're a bit and then you're like, oh, I got to be gentle, and you kind of go back and forth or whatever, end up being kind of like socially pulled around by your own sense of how you're supposed to behave.
Yep.
And similarly with goals, right? Sorry, I mean, those are also goals. Similarly with sort of do stuff type goals, like, you can
Hmm.
find yourself being like, man, I haven't taken a break in forever. I got to go take a break. And you like go take a break. And then you're like, man, I haven't worked in forever. And there can be a kind of like whiplash feeling going back and forth between these various
Yep.
things. Oh,
Yep.
I got to go get some shit done. And so it's like seeing that goals are this really fundamental thing to beingness, that, like, you know, that there's a sense in which the word goal is describing, like, literally, I'm actually not sure what the order of magnitude is, but easily thousands, maybe millions of things that I am doing right now in order to utter this sentence.
Right. Right.
At a high level, there's only a few of them. Down at the level of like individual muscle cells actuating, and individual auditory receptor cells that are actuating to make sure that what I'm saying sounds right.
Right.
Although I guess there's other feedback loops with your tongue, like you can talk even if you're deaf, blah blah blah. But somehow I'm and then I'm also maintaining a sense of you and whether you seem to be understanding me and following what I'm saying. Although I think I could be more present to that than I was before I thought about it. I was like, I was actually like looking at myself in the self view in Zoom. I was actually not
I've
looking at
caught
you.
myself doing that because
Yeah,
I've had to like go up a little. It's like,
yeah,
no, stop doing the feedback to yourself. Like just look at
yeah,
Malcolm.
yeah. Like, who am I talking to right
Yeah.
now? It's like, and anyway, but going back to Complice, so it's like Complice I see as a kind of like almost like a laboratory to explore your own relationship to intentionality. So it's like,
Ooh.
you write down all these things that you care about, like your sense of okay, there's these things I want to move towards on over the next months or next years, and then you kind of find out, how do I actually relate to that process? Because obviously for stuff like this, it's very easy to just be unconflicted, like, oh yeah, I want to take a drink of water,
Right.
success, goal achieved. um, and honestly, I think a lot of people would actually benefit tremendously from experiencing their own intentionality a little bit more, just like very directly. It's like noticing, I want to listen to this song, like put on the song. I listened to the song. I wanted to, and I did. I just achieved that. Like,
Right.
there's actually something real there. I think that people, including myself, could benefit more from, and just take a moment to celebrate that you have the capacity to do things. But at any rate, obviously, once you get to like much bigger things, which are also worth pausing and celebrating, you start to run into a lot more conflicts, or you can find yourself forgetting that you even sort of had the goal in the first place. Like, you intend it, but then you sort of it just kind of gets mm, uh, lost in the clutter of things, or whatever,
Right.
mentally or physically, right? You might like buy an object intending to do something with it, and if that object stayed on your kitchen table until you did the thing, you would definitely eventually do it. But instead, it goes on a shelf, then it goes in a cupboard, and then it goes in a box, and you sort of never do the thing.